In this video, we will be looking at how to employ CCRP bombing in the Mirage 2000C, beginning with the HUD target designation method. We will go over the principles of CCRP bombing, the ordnance available to the Mirage for this type of bombing, various attack profiles that can be employed when CCRP bombing, the use of both unguided and laser-guided bombs, and some examples of using a JTAC or forward air controller to coordinate precision strikes. Hello fellow virtual aviators, we are back in the unflappable and unequivocal Mirage 2000C, and today we are looking at striking targets with bombs. Specifically today we will be looking at low drag bombs. It remains a beautiful morning over Bandar Abbas in southern Iran, and the forces of the rogue general are being pushed back. Today we will continue to do so using our general purpose bomb options as well as our laser guided bombs. Hopefully you will be familiar with the two most common modes of dropping bombs in advanced 4th generation fighters like the Mirage 2000C, CCRP and CCIP. Unlike other aircraft, the mode by which bombs are dropped in the Mirage is pre-selected. Each type of bomb can only be dropped by one particular mode, and this cannot be changed by the pilot. This is part of the French Air Force's military doctrine and based on the expectations of the Mirage 2000C and its secondary strike role. Today we will only be looking at CCRP, Continuously Computed Release Point, and the weapons that use this mode. Our primary targets will be to knock out the Rogue General's command post, which has been established here at Shahid Bahonar Port, an advanced platoon supporting a battery of artillery on the outskirts of Dogerden, and the Rogue General's top lieutenant, who will be landing at a fuel dump the enemy have managed to establish at Bandar Abbas Airport. Each target is defended by different air-to-air capabilities, AAA, manpads, and short-range radar-based surface-to-air missile systems respectively, so our bomb delivery methods will differ for each one. Our secondary targets will be to disable the short-range infrared-seeking surface-to-air defences at Havadaria Air Base, in preparation for further action the following day. Friendly JTACs are in the area and are able to laser the targets for us. Both our primary and secondary targets give us a good opportunity to demonstrate the use of general-purpose low-drag gravity bombs and laser-guided bombs, which are always delivered by CCRP in the Mirage 2000C. If you are familiar with CCRP delivery, please feel free to skip the next section, but first a short presentation on some important concepts. In this briefing, we are looking at the use of low-drag bombs delivered by CCRP in the Mirage 2000C. CCRP stands for Continuously Computed Release Point. You may hear this referred to as CCPL, Calcul Continu de Point de Lagage, the French term for the same. During a CCRP strike, the target is designated using a suitable method, and its location is stored in the aircraft's weapons and navigation computer. Having designated the target, the computer will calculate when the bomb should be released so that, as it falls to Earth, it will strike the target. This is our Continuously Computed Release Point, or CCRP. To calculate this, it takes into account various factors, such as the weight and ballistic profile of the weapon, your altitude above the target, your airspeed, your aircraft's attitude, and so on. The aircraft therefore does not need to be aimed at the target when the weapon is released. When the aircraft reaches the CCRP, the weapon is released and follows a ballistic trajectory to strike the designated target. The release point is continuously computed, as even after you have designated the target, Should your flight parameters change, the position of the CCRP will also change to take this into account, at least within reason. This enables the aircraft to fly different attack profiles determined by the situation. Be advised, however, CCRP bombing is not particularly accurate in the Mirage 2000C unless you utilize a laser-guided weapon. Unguided, low-drag bombs have a significant circular error, and the Mirage's systems are not optimized for precision strikes. The Mirage 2000C has two unguided, low-drag bomb options in the Mark 82, the standard NATO general-purpose bomb, and the SAMP 250, a French general-purpose bomb. Both have the same nominal weight of 500 pounds or 250 kilos. A maximum of 8 general-purpose bombs can be carried. 3 laser-guided options exist. The GBU-12 is equivalent to the Mark 82 in nominal weight, but is fitted with a paveway laser seeker head and guidance fins. Up to 4 GBU-12s can be carried. The larger GBU-16 and GBU-24 are laser-guided analogues to the NATO Mark 83 1,000 pound and Mark 84 2,000 pound bombs. Due to their size, the Mirage 2000C is only rated to carry 1 on its centerline fuselage hardpoint. There are 2 ways of designating the target when CCRP bombing in the Mirage 2000C: by HUD designation or by INS designation. Today we will focus on HUD designation. The target is placed under a diamond-shaped reticle on the HUD and marked with a target designation function. The pilot is then guided to the CCRP point using guides on the HUD. The pilot must carefully steer the Mirage to remain on course. Notice that the target does not need to be kept under the reticle. As the Mirage approaches the correct CCRP for the current flight parameters, a release cue will appear at the bottom of the HUD and climb towards the reticle. Consent to release the bombs is given by holding the trigger, and the bombs are released automatically when the release cue reaches the reticle. As the target does not need to be held under the reticle, several dive profiles exist. The 3 main profiles are dive-dive, dive-level, and dive-toss. In dive-dive, starting above 10,000 feet AGL, a dive is entered at approximately 25 degrees to place the target in the HUD for designation. Designation should occur no later than 6,000 feet AGL. Once the target is designated, the dive is gently reduced to approximately 10 degrees. Once the bombs are released at the CCRP, pull out of the dive and turn out of the target area. This tends to be the most accurate attack profile, but brings you closest to the target point, placing you in more danger from surface-to-air fire. An alternative is the dive-level profile. The dive is executed in this same manner, but the aircraft is brought to level flight after target designation. This helps maintain more distance from the target to protect you. As the aircraft will not be descending after designation, it can also occur later, as late as 4,000 feet AGL. However, this profile can be used for high altitude delivery also. This profile is safer than dive-dive, but tends to be less accurate. The third standard attack profile is dive-toss. A steeper initial dive designates the target, followed by a hard 5 to 6G pull into a climb. The bombs are released on the ascent, lofting them in a parabolic trajectory similar to artillery fire. This profile is best employed against well-defended targets, as it offers the greatest range between the aircraft and the target. However, the Mirage's SNA weapons and navigation system is not optimized for a long time of flight, so you can expect this profile to yield a less accurate strike. Other profiles exist, such as the pop-up profile, which we will look at in a future briefing. Thank you for listening. Now let's see how CCRP bombing is conducted in our beloved Mirage 2000C. Okay, as usual, we need to do some preparation on the ground before firing up the engine. Today we are going to take 8 Mark 82s on hardpoints 2, 3 and 4, 6 and 7, and 8. Those carried on 2 and 8 are carried on a rack apparatus called an AUF2. We are also going to take 2 GBU-12s on centerline hardpoint 5, again carried on an AUF2. We're carrying 2 Magic 2s as standard for defense.
Request rearming. Copy.
On the ground adjustment options sheet on the kneeboard, we need to set the laser code for the GBU, so let's bring up the kneeboard. The Mirage 2000C cannot self-laser designate and does not carry a targeting pod, so we need to ensure that the code matches that of the JTAC friendly aircraft or drone that will be lasing the target. The code cannot be changed in the air, so must be done before firing up the engine. And as you can see there, we can adjust the last 3 digits of the laser code using right shift, right alt, and then 90 and the minus symbol respectively. The laser code for this mission is 1588, so let's set that. All other parameters are adjustable from the cockpit whilst airborne, so let's get up in the air and get bombing. Our first targets for today are the enemy command center, the enemy camp, and the enemy fuel dump. For each of these, we are going to strike with our Mark 82 unguided bombs. For convenience, because I know the location of each target, I have programmed an INS waypoint close to each one. To select the bombs, make sure the CNM switch on the throttle is set to the neutral position as normal. Ensure that we have the master arm switch in the upward arm position, and our bombs are selected with BL1. BL standing for bombe lisse, the French term for a low drag bomb. Upon selection, some familiar options will display on the top row of the PCA. As we saw in our previous tutorial, TAS and RS are your ranging methods. TAS, or telemetry air sol, is radar ranging, and RS, or radio sonde, is the use of the radar altimeter trigonometrical ranging. And just like with guns and rockets, it is usual to have both ranging modes selected, with RS acting as a backup to TAS. Ensure that your radar is switched on and emitting, which it is, and that your radar altimeter is switched on also. There are 2 ways of designating the target when CCRP bombing in the Mirage 2000C, by HUD designation or by INS designation. Today we are just focusing on HUD designation, and the option PI on the PCA panel is used to select an initial point in the alternative INS method. So we won't use that today, but we will cover it in a future tutorial. As with most ordnance, we also need to set some delivery parameters on the PPA panel. Firstly, the bomb fuses are unarmed, so we need to arm them and select which fuse should be employed. This is done with the fuse selection switch, which has 3 settings. Inert, which renders the bombs unarmed. RET, standing for retard, meaning delayed, which selects and arms the tail fuse. And INST, standing for instantan, or instantaneous, which arms the nose and tail fuses. Your target will determine which fuse setting to choose. The tail fuse is best employed against targets such as bunkers, buildings and reinforced infrastructure, whereas the instantaneous nose and tail fuse is best employed against soft and surface targets. So for today we will be using instantaneous. We can drop multiple bombs in a salvo should we desire. This is selected on the salvo quantity switch. At least 1 bomb must be selected, otherwise bomb release will be inhibited. Maximum possible selection is 18, but it is always very important to select the exact number of bombs you wish to release, otherwise your bombing will be inaccurate. Today we are going to drop our first set of bombs in pairs, so we will select 2. We can also set an interval between each bomb drop in order to drop the bombs with a separation. This is measured in tens of meters and is set on this switch here. For example, setting the switch to 0.6 will drop the bombs so they land with a 60-meter separation. A selection of 0.1 has no effect on the salvo bomb interval. Selection 0.0 will select the minimum bomb release separation time, which is programmed to be 10 milliseconds. Our weapon is now selected and its delivery parameters chosen. As with air-to-ground guns and rockets, to access the relevant air-to-ground submode to display the correct symbology on the HUD, we press the Weapon System command switch forward on the HOTAS. This places us into air-to-ground selected mode, and as we can see, the symbology is displayed on the heads-up display. Our weapon choice, BL, or low-drag bombs, is now displayed together with an accelerometer. This reticle with a central aiming dot is the target designation diamond. We are going to use it to point out the target to the Mirage 2000C's SNA weapons and navigation computer. The diamond will have small horizontal lines attached to its sides if the weapon is ready to be employed. If these indication wings are missing, check that the master arm switch is set to arm, an armed bomb fuse has been selected, and that the bomb quantity is not set to 0. For example, if I set the fuse arming switch back to inert, the symbology indicates that the bombs are not ready to use. Another indicator of bomb readiness is SP illuminated under the weapon selection on the PCA. The only other time the indication wings may be missing from the target designation diamond is if your current G loading is less than 0.5 G. This is to prevent your bombs striking your own aircraft on release. Okay, we are approaching our first target, which, again for convenience, is programmed close to waypoint 1. This target is lightly defended with AAA, so we are going to employ a dive-dive profile. Our weapon is set up, fuses are armed, and we are going to drop 2 bombs with a separation of 20 meters. We are at 15,000 feet AGL, and I prefer a 20-degree dive, so at this altitude we are going to initiate the dive at a distance of approximately 7 nautical miles from the target. Here we go. There's the target command post next to that comms tower, so place the target on the aiming dot in the designator and press the Magic Slave Air-to-Ground Designate button. In doing so, the roll order wings steering cues will appear to show that we have successfully designated a target. To keep on target, we need to maintain these in alignment with the target designator as best we can until we release the bombs. If the target designation is incorrect, you can always redesignate by pressing the Air-to-Ground Designate button again. Let's enter the second stage of the dive-dive profile at 10 degrees. The release bar has appeared and is making its way up the HUD. Depress and hold the second stage of the microbe trigger. This won't release the bombs but gives consent for their release at the correct CCRP. Ensure that you maintain the correct dive attitude and keep the steering cues balanced until the bombs are released. It only takes a small input from the stick to correct any deviation. Dive is good, speed is good, wings are level, so keep holding that trigger. And do not release the trigger until the release bar has passed over the designator and has disappeared. Let's see how we did. Looking good so far. Not bad at all, I'll take that. After dropping your bombs, the SNA will remember the designated target point should you wish to come round for a second strike. To in effect unlock the target, press the Weapons System Command button aft on your HOTAS to bring you out of air-to-ground selected mode. Re-entering the mode with Weapons System Command forward will place you back at the start of the sequence, ready to designate a new target. So we'll climb back up to approximately 15,000 feet AGL, and we'll set it to waypoint 2, which is our next target, and this time we'll drop the bombs together with no separation. You can always check our remaining ordnance on the store's visualization page. We've placed over 10 nautical miles between us and the target, so we're going to turn back in and head towards waypoint 2. Access air-to-ground selected mode with Weapons System Command forward. This target is slightly better defended with manpads, so we are going to employ the dive level attack profile. Still at 15,000 AGL, I want to be around about 7 miles away from the target before initiating my dive. I've deliberately placed my waypoint slightly away so that the crosshair doesn't mask the target. You should always designate with your eye, and when CCRP bombing it is always best to designate the base of a target anyway, but in my experience the Mirage 2000C's SNA always sends bombs slightly long, so we'll designate at the front of the camp. We'll pull up to achieve level flight. Release bar is on its way, keep those steering cues aligned, squeeze the trigger, and pickle. Release the trigger. I'm out of range of the defences, so my speed was not too important in that particular attack run, but here's hoping for a good strike. Haha, not bad at all. Those bombs definitely landed further than the point I designated, so take this into account during your attack runs. In our next attack run, we will drop all our remaining Mark 82s with a separation of 20 meters. Let's set to waypoint 3. For the third target, we've climbed up to approximately 25,000 feet to try and remain out of the range of the SA-8 OSAs guarding the fuel dump. Now, SA-8s aren't a huge threat, their maximum altitude for attack is approximately 21,000 feet, and a range of about 7.5 nautical miles, but nevertheless, I'm not going to put myself into any unnecessary risks. In this attack run, to try and avoid those SAMs, we are going to employ the dive toss method. At 25,000 feet, we want to commence our dive approximately 10 nautical miles out from the target. So let's switch into air-to-ground selected mode with Weapons System Command forward and commence our dive. I can see the row of fuel dump structures, so we'll just designate there. And once designated, pull up with about a 5G pull and watch for the release cue, squeeze the trigger. And let's get out of here. You can see there that when executing the dive toss profile, it is easy to incorrectly add roll inputs on the stick when pulling up, so it can be difficult to keep the steering cues aligned, but let's see whether the Rogue General's Lieutenant is toast. Booyah! Lovely jubbly. Not the most accurate, we got lucky there as the bomb's circular error was significant. That sort of spread is typical when using the dive toss profile in the 2000C. In our next attacks, we will utilize laser-guided weaponry. The method of selection, delivery parameters, and attack profiles follow the same procedures as our unguided weaponry. So we will first unselect the Mark 82s and select our GBUs by selecting EL1 on the PCA panel. As these are precision weapons, we are going to employ them one at a time, so our quantity and separation will be 0-1 and 0-0 respectively. Fuses on the GBUs act the same, so we will use instantaneous nose and tail fusing. Okay, our first precision target, which is an SA-9 Strela, is close to my waypoint 4, so we'll head towards that. I've already contacted the JTAC on the ground, and he is ready to laser the target on laser code 1588. The usual attack profile for laser-guided bombs is dive level, so we'll employ that here. I'm at approximately 20,000 feet AGL, so we'll start our dive around 10 nautical miles out. Let's switch over to air-to-ground selected mode with weapon system command forward, and commence the dive. Now, since we are using a precision strike weapon, our target designation does not need to be 100% accurate, only close to the intended target, so we are going to use the waypoint crosshair marker to aid us in picking out the target area. All other procedures remain the same as unguided bombs, so let's level out and prepare for CCRP release. We've contacted the JTAC to start lasing. Again, as this is guided, we only need to keep the steering cues generally correct. There's the release cue climbing, and pickle. Well out of range of the Strela to protect myself, but I can expect a direct or very near hit on it. There's the GBU catching the laser and guiding itself towards the target. Shack 1 Strela. Let's immediately get set up for our next strike. We'll contact our embedded JTAC Axeman on 133 MHz.
Axeman 1-1. This is in field 1-1-1. Delta Romeo 1415 20,000. I have GBU-12 150 cannon. Playtime is 0 plus 15. Available for tasking. What do you have for us? Copy remarks. Request GBU-12 4 CU-23 southeast 2 nautical. SA-9 north 0 nautical. 70 Delta Romeo 166504446. Read that correct. Report IP inbound.
Now we're cheating here a little. The Mirage 2000C's SNA does not work with MGRS style coordinates, but I know the target being marked is next to my waypoint 5, so we'll steer towards that. Designate, level out, laser on, timing cue, pickle. In this night scenario, we do not have INS waypoints programmed close to our targets, but our JTAC can still tell us where the target is by lasing it. We can then convert the MGRS coordinates that he will provide to us to lat long using a converter, program a waypoint at the target location, and then strike the target with a GBU.
Moonbeam 1-1. This is in field 1-1-1. Delta Quebec 4476. 25,000. I have GBU-12 150 gun. Playtime is 0 plus 15. Available for tasking. What do you have for us? Infield 1-1. This is Moonbeam 1-1. Taxi you into food. Advise and ready for timeline. Ready to copy. Line is as follows. 1, 2, 3, NA, 50 feet, MSL. SAM, Delta, Romeo, 1, 8, 1, 6, 0, 4, 3, 5. Mark by laser. 1, 5, 8, 8. Northeast, 1,400 meters. Troops in contact. Egress, west. Advise when ready for remarks and further talk on. Ready to copy remarks. Request GBU-12 4 CU-23 southeast 1 nautical. SA-9 north 0 nautical. SA-8 northwest 0 nautical. 50 Delta Romeo 181604335. Readback correct. Report IP inbound.
So, using a converter, we have found the target's MGRS coordinates correspond to this latitude and longitude shown here, so we'll program that as our waypoint 1. All we need now do is designate the waypoint crosshair as our target, loose the bombs, and then loosen up. Well, as ever, I hope that was useful for you, and you are now able to drop some warheads on foreheads. We've only scratched the surface with strike and interdiction missions, so in our upcoming tutorials, we'll be looking at some more advanced techniques as well as our other ordnance options. With genuine gratitude to my patrons, the macabre Yan 11 and the outstanding Lakota 2-1. Feel free to do the usual thing like subscribe, comment and share, but until next time, virtual aviators, I look forward to seeing you online in the skies. This is Reiver saying last call.